Hello and welcome to our second attempt at this particular lesson. I am so excited because finally I'm able to get this over and done with. I hope that you've been doing okay. So we've had kind of a break between the last time we had a live lesson and this particular one, and I hope that I know so many of you have been anticipating this particular class. I had several of you text me inbox to say, "Hey, Doc, I can't wait for that particular lesson. I've been looking forward to it because I need to help my children learn how to pick their friends." So this is a very, very broad lesson. I had to streamline it so that we can be able to go through all the material that needs to be covered. So we're going to focus mostly on helping children learn to make the right friends. If you've been following the news, I think there is a very popular story going around now about a young man in the US who found himself in, a very messy friendship situation. I'm going to tell you more about it as we go on with the lesson. But please, if you are here already, let someone else know that we are live so that they can be able to join in from whatever forum you're joining this session today. If you're from the DR tribe, whether level 1 or level 2, you're from the PPHP community, please help me tell the others that we are finally live. The network is okay, and we are going to have an amazing time together. Please ensure that you write down in the comments any questions as we go along, any highlights, whatever it is that hits you. Make sure you jot that in the comment section. Let's keep the comment section buzzing. Let's keep the comment section alive, because your feedback at that in that area or in that aspect of this lesson is going to help give more value to the lessons. And of course, because we are active learners, at the end of the session, make sure you jot down your highlights, share those on the forum so that anyone else who is contemplating whether or not this class is for them might be able to grab some nuggets and hopefully join the session or catch a replay of the session. So drag someone else here. I don't know wherever you're coming from, whether you're from the DR tribe or from the PPHP community. Let some other parent know to come on board because we are live already. Great. So I'm going to be talking to you today about relationship skills, about friendship skills, about nurturing social intelligence. We are going to go, in several different directions, but largely under the same topic because there is, like I said, it's a very broad topic. It has to do with relationship skills as a whole. It has to do build or nurture social awareness. It has to do with teaching your child friendship skills so that they can be skillful at picking their company. This is in fact, it's very important lesson. It's something that every parent wants to at least have some kind of knowledge about how to help their children. Because for most parents, when we don't like the friends our children keep, what do? We drive them away. We do our best to try to physically separate the child from the company we do not want them keeping. Well, in this lesson today, we're going to learn not just how to micromanage who your child is keeping friendship with, but you're going to learn how to teach your child how to pick their friends better, and that is a superior skill. All right, that is much more better than just trying to pick your child's friends for them, because of course you're not your child's handbag. You can't follow them to every single corner, to every place they go, especially as they grow older. For those who are here as teen parents, I'm sure by now you really know the experience, right? Your teenager is like, I often tell my husband that having a child is like having your heart walking outside of your body, and for me, sometimes it terrifies me because if you have 4 kids, for example, if you have 6 kids, you have 6 pieces of your heart moving around on different parts of the surface of the earth at different times. So it can really be scary sometimes. So we're going to be looking at how to teach your child how to pick their friends. We're going to look at certain aspects of relationships, how to teach your child or how to help your child be better at relationships, the things that you wish you would have learned when you were growing up, because I'm sure that every one of us here has their fair share of stories about relationships in the past, the things they didn't handle well, the things they could have handled better, and all of that. We're going to be looking at those things. And if we still have some time left on our hands, we might talk a little bit about how to teach kids to communicate better, because the heartbeat of every relationship is the person's ability to communicate properly. All right, your ability to communicate properly is literally going to determine the health of every relationship that you're going to have as you go. Now, the child you're raising is not just your child, because as they grow older, they are going to be someone's classmate. They are going to be someone's friend. They are going to be someone's, I don't know, partner, teammate. They are going to be someone's spouse. They are going to be someone's boss as they grow older, right? So something that you cannot escape. There is no way as an adult or as a human being you can survive as an island, right? The reason why this is so relevant is because there is no way as an adult you can survive as an island. You're going to need people. And that's why as we go through this particular lesson today, brother, you're going to see that there are certain things that, as an adult, you might be going through, you might be having difficulties, which is actually related to the lack of social skills or to your poor social skills, right? There are some things that some adults go through, which literally has to do with their unskillfulness at handling relationships with other people. And these people usually be the ones blaming every other person except themselves. So relationship skills are so important. It can literally determine the quality of life that your child is going to have. I don't know why my slides, I don't know if you can see my slides. Can you see my slides? Let me know if you're here, please. Let me know if you can see my slides. Can you see my slides, please? Cannot see my slides. Great. Nope. I might have to share my screen if I through to my slides. Oh, we might have to carry on without the slides. Several attempts to have the slides uploaded has not worked. So we might have to go without the slides. All right. Okay, so we're going to have to go without the slides. Unfortunately, I don't know why. I think the network signal is not able to carry the slides, so we are going to have to go without them. While I'll keep trying to upload them. I'm just grateful that at least the video signal is sound. So the slides are here. I can see them, but you cannot see them. I don't know why. All right, we're going to have to go without them. All right, so we're going to talk about how to help your child be a better friend, right? Because when we talk about friendship skills, usually you're just thinking about, oh, is my child going to have good friends? I want my child to be able to have good friends. But what about the kind of friend your child is going to be? I think that if every parent will pay more attention to the kind of friend they are raising their child to become, the world will be a better place. All right, the world will be a better place, because most times we are so focused on, oh, I want my child to have good friends, that we sometimes overlook the kind of friend your child is. What kind of friend is your child going to be? What kind of boss are they going to be? What kind of spouse are they going to be? What kind of relationships are they going to have? Right? Because all of these things will be impacted by what it is that you're teaching your child as they grow up right now. All right? As they grow up from these tender years, what you're teaching them will determine or will shape these aspects of their lives, the kind of relationships that they have, and how they relate and treat other people. Just a moment. All right, so we're going to start from. I'm just gonna go through, a few. As soon as you can see the slides, please let me know. It's still loading. As soon as you can see, just let me know so I stop trying, so that I don't overload the system with repeated commands, because that's going to freeze it as well. As soon as you can see it, please let me know that you can see it. We're going to start with just having a basic definition of what social skills are, why are they important, right? And some of the myths that we usually hold on to that can actually sabotage or cause us to overlook developing this particular skill in our children. Now, social skills, first of all, are learned, right? Because if we understand, we agree to the fact that children come into this world as a blank slate, more or less, that who a child becomes, is a product of their environment and all the things that they have learned and all the things that they have experienced. So children are not born with a set of social skills pre-installed in them, except for their personality traits, because your personality trait is going to influence how you approach relationships. Take, for example, the introvert and the extrovert. The way they approach relationships is quite different, right? The introvert has the tendency to withdraw, while the extrovert has a tendency naturally to go towards people. Now, those are your inborn um, traits that influence how you relate with people. Of course, in more effort towards relationships, while the extrovert also has to put in effort from it, all from different perspectives, right? The introvert would be great at handling relationships, but not so great at approaching and starting relationships, while the extrovert is great at approaching and starting relationships, but not so great at maintaining relationships. So both of them need social skills, but from different perspectives. Unfortunately, we can't really go into that. So social skills are, all about what we talk about. Social skills refer to acceptable behavior, right? And when we talk about acceptable behavior, you're going to agree with me that it changes from one context to the next. What is acceptable in church is not acceptable at a funeral, may not maybe different from what's acceptable maybe in a circle of friends, different from what is expected in class, at home. So acceptable behavior varies from one place to another. So your child's ability to understand and adapt to these differences, right, and manage their behavior depending on the environment is what constitutes social skills as a whole. So it also extends to having to do with how they handle relationships, how they relate with other people. What can be appropriate between siblings will be inappropriate between your child and a stranger, for example, right? You might see siblings playfully touching each other, pushing each other. When you take that to a stranger, it might be looked upon as intrusion, right? As you being inappropriate. So it's about your child understanding this code of conduct when it comes to how they can or should behave, depending on where they are, depending on who they are with, right? Depending on where they are, but also depending on who they are with per time. All right. So I'm sure that you can also have experiences with some situations where maybe you've taken your child to some place, maybe to a meeting or to a wedding, and you've had your child behaving inappropriately in that particular place. Very embarrassing for many parents. But you realize that when children are young, they don't really understand those differences, right? A toddler will very much lift up their skirt and do whatever they like. They might even attempt to touch people inappropriately because they don't understand this particular code of conduct, right? That this is okay, this is not okay. That to them is something that is foreign. So children are not born having an understanding about how to conduct themselves in different places. And that's where you come in. All right. That's where you come in. So social skills are learned. They can be taught. Now, if you do not intentionally teach them, by copying you about how to behave. Now, if you want to have a better outcome, then it's preferable for you to be intentional about teaching your child how to behave, how to conduct themselves in different places based on your set of values. Because if not, if your child grows up learning to just copy what other people are doing, you're going to find yourself in a situation where your child goes to a certain place and, copies what other people are doing. For example, let's take university settings, for example. Most kids go to the university and lose themselves completely because they have this newfound freedom. They are surrounded by a plethora of different kinds of behaviors and beliefs, and a child who is not well grounded in values and in their identity will find themselves copying whichever one, is closest or easiest to them. And usually that might not lead them to the place where you will be proud as a parent to have your child go to. So being intentional about teaching and nurturing social skills actually helps you teach your child how to manage and adapt their behavior based on a set of values, based on a sense of identity. Because who you are must always come into play when you go into an environment that requires a certain type of behavior. Because when a child understands that their identity, their values must not be compromised, they can actually choose to excuse themselves from environments where they are forced to behave in certain ways that contradicts their person or their sets of value. That's what this is supposed to be all about. All right. It's supposed to be about, allowing your child be able to understand the importance of managing their behavior in different circumstances, in different places, and when they are with different people. I don't really know why I cannot see this. So trying again for the umpteenth time. I really want you to follow along. All right. Now, let's talk about relationships for a little bit. You are defined by the company you keep. Through your environment, you inherit beliefs, and those beliefs become a part of your subconscious mind. That is the reality. When people say, oh, now I was talking about the popular story, those who were here from the beginning, I was talking about a very popular story that is trending online in the US about went out on July 4th, which is the Independence Day for America, went out to celebrate. They had a kind of celebration back with friends. His friends were all white, he was the only black. And turns out the friends came back, all three white friends came back, and this one black boy did not come back. So after 2 days, they found his body, he was dead. It's a whole training story. I don't know if any of you have come across that story online, but it's a very touching story. I have been following it up because it's really touching to see that racism is still an issue to this extent in America. But what struck me about the story even more is the fact that, from every indication, this boy was murdered by his friends. And what really got me thinking so deep about this story is the fact that because for him to, his parents said that they're close, they grew up together, for him to have kept such a company that was a threat, literal threat to his life, and never ever picked up on any signal, never ever saw any red flags, was completely unable to, have been able to say, no, I cannot be friends with these people because there must have been signals along the way. It is not possible that for all the years they have been friends, maybe they have not had maybe some kind of racist comments or some kind of racist or poor treatment or some kind of comments or, jealousy being acted out. There must have been red flags. But this boy carried on the relationship, was completely unable to break away maybe from the friendship until it cost him his life. Well, it's still being investigated. So all of these things are alleged thoughts or statements, right? But from every indication, he was murdered by the same people he called his friends. Now, so many stories like this. There's another story of training of a young girl who I think in Bamenda, here in Cameroon, who was given up by her friend, into a house of I don't know, men or whatever, boys, and she was kidnapped there and raped for days. Her friend actually took her there and left her there. So my question is, if we're not teaching our children about how to decipher, how to detect when a friend is genuine, it can literally cost them their lives, right? So because who your friend, you are defined by the company you keep. The Bible says that evil company corrupts good manners. So you cannot say that, oh, this is my friend, but I am not like that, right? Evil company corrupts good manners. Two cannot work together unless they agree. These are things that we have to not just preach to our children, but literally teach them so that they can understand that picking a friend is not just like going to a supermarket and picking something that you like off the shelves. It has to be something that you really consider, right? You have to study the other person, you have to know the other person, and you have to be able to pick up certain red flags and then make even tough decisions. That's why the earlier your child starts practicing this, the better for them, right? The better for them. Now, relationships actually determine who we become. They are integral to our lives, right? It's so important because there's no place you will turn to, no place you will go to as an individual where you're not going to have to, have some kind of relationship with other people. Working relationship, marriage relationships. And the quality of our life is determined by how well we are able to manage these relationships. Those who are miserable in life, you can always connect it to their inability to relate well with others. And research has proven this, all right, that the quality of a person's life is determined largely by their ability to relate well with other people, to keep healthy relationships. Because when you have a good relationship, you get support, you get love, you get a sense of belonging better. A person tends to be more resilient when they're surrounded by supportive relationships, as opposed to when they are an island. All right, as opposed to when they are an island. And I'm talking about research. I said research has shown that people who have strong social networks to live longer. So they've been able to connect through research the length of a person's life or lifespan to their quality of relationship. Those who have great quality relationships tend to live longer because, in every sense of the word, in every sense of the word, it's going to actually affect your health. Now, I talked about the fact that our kids are not just going to be someone's friend, someone's brother or sister, roles that your child is going to have to play will be determined by the skills that you teach them at this level that will help them be able to navigate those different relationships properly. So we're going to focus on friendship, like I said earlier. We're going to focus on friendship skills. And I would like to hear from you, right? What are some of the difficulties that you have had, maybe dealing with the kind of friend, try to separate your child. Had experiences where I was the friend that the parents told my friend, don't, stop walking with this girl. And I think I've shared this story over and again, you know. But as a parent, that's usually what you're tempted to do. You're tempted to just tell your child, I don't want to see you this boy again. I don't want to see you with that girl again. I don't want to see you going to that house again. So you're physically trying to stop your child from having a bad relationship, which, if you look at it closely, that is the wrong target. Because the problem is not the other person, the problem is how your child is picking their friends. That's the perspective I want you to have after the session today. All right. If you focus more on how your child picks their friends, you will actually get to be able to control the kind of friends your child makes indirectly, which is more powerful because that enables them pick better friends, then you would not have to worry about the kind of friends they keep as much. But usually we focus more on scrutinizing their friends and then trying to pick and choose who your child should keep as a friend. Now that is a lost battle. Why? Because again, I said earlier that you cannot follow your child everywhere. All right, you can't follow your child everywhere to every single place that they go because your child is going to meet people that you don't know about. Your child is going to relate to people that you're never ever going to meet, probably. Your child is going to continue to keep friendships even outside of your knowledge, especially when you begin to go on the offensive as a parent by trying to physically control the kind of friends that your child is keeping. We're going to talk about how to help your child make better friends as you go ahead. All right. So it is a lost battle for you to physically try to say, don't talk with this person, don't be a friend with this person, because yes, you have your reasons. But what you should be asking yourself is, I can see that this is a bad friend. Why can't my child see it? That is the superior question that you ought to be asking yourself. I can see that this is a friend that will mislead my child. But the question is, why can't my child see it? Or why is my child drawn to this person? And what can I do to influence the way my child is speaking from here on out, or to influence where my child is speaking from? Because there are two things that you have to pay attention to, right? One is how your child is speaking, and number two is where your child is speaking from. It's like you have two tanks of fish, right? In one tank, you have the good fish, that you want to. Maybe I'll share my screen. So I'm sharing my screen. I hope that is going to be better. So, all right. So we're looking at how to teach your child leadership skills. I'm sure that this is better now. Can you see my screen? All right, this should be better. Okay, now relationship skills or friendship skills, you want to call them that, is about who your child is relating with and how they are able to go about those different relationships. And I love this particular slide here because one of the things that we can learn from Jesus was that he never just came to earth with with a message, all right, with an agenda. He actually came to earth to not just pass a message, but be able to influence other people. And one of the biggest mediums of influence is through relationship, all right? Because whatever it is that you want to accomplish cannot be accomplished without you being a relational being, without you being an individual that can relate properly with other people. So I guess you can see my slides now, right? Can you see my slides? Okay. All right. So you could see. That's great. Finally, we have some breakthrough. Okay. Now, if you want to teach, you cannot teach anything as a parent without first starting from your own example. That's always the starting point. Everything that you do as a parent would always have a bearing on your example. Because the hallmark of great parenting is not just do as I say, it is do as I do. So you cannot teach a child how to be better at being a relational being without putting your own relationships and your own relationship skills under the microscope first, because that is the starting point. All right. Your relational ability will always be the classroom for your child when it comes to how to handle relationships, how you handle conflict, how you communicate with other people, how you're able to relate and love and communicate with other people is the classroom from where your child is learning the most important lessons about navigating relationships. So your role modeling can never be taken off off the table. All right. So how you interact with your child is always the starting point as well. Most parents, we try to separate the things or how I treat my child from how I want my child to treat other people. Let's just go even from the way your child treats their siblings. You can always see a mirror reflection of how you relate with your child by looking at how they relate with their siblings, particularly when they're navigating conflict, when they're navigating frustration or big emotions. You would see a mirror image of yourself, how you handle those circumstances reflected in your child. So it starts with how you relate with your child. Because how we relate with our children is also how they experience love. It's also how they experience all the relational things that we need to teach them about how to do so or do same with others. Right? So your interaction with your child is an opportunity to inspire good relationship skills. That's why, as a parent, one of your primary goals has to be your continuous growth. That's why I tell parents that belonging to a community that helps you keep your focus in focus is a great decision that you can make on your parenting journey, because continuous growth should be the goal, because nobody has arrived. All right, there's no perfection, but you want to continuously be on the path of improvement, be on the path of transformation, where you're continuously trying to improve different skills, improve your emotional intelligence, improve your communication, improve how you're managing maybe your big emotions, improve how you navigate, different things, how you relate to other people. All right, the kind of relationships that you keep with others. Are they healthy? Are they toxic? Another thing that you have to bear in mind is how you tolerate toxic relationships. One of the big lessons that children learn about their self worth, about their identity, about how to handle toxicity comes to them mostly by watching how you're handling yours. I'm talking to the parent who is navigating maybe a toxic relationship, and you're just like, you're just taking everything, the people pleaser, right? Everything is just dumped on you. Your child is watching, they're seeing how you allow people cross your boundaries. You have no boundaries, even, right? People are pushing you left and right. Your child is seeing all that. And your child also sees when you are the toxic individual. So it's a good way for a child to learn um, about how to relate with others, just by first how you relate with them, but also by watching how you relate with other people. So this is one of the most uncomfortable truths for parents, because that is the first classroom. Your child's relationship skills will first be derived by watching you relate with other people. All right. So you need to be able to first identify and heal from your traumatic experiences of the past, because those experiences will influence how you relate with other people moving forward. So I was just thinking today, recently I had an encounter with a client who is currently dealing with a toxic relationship. And this individual mentioned something to me that really struck me. I was actually thinking about it just through, for the most part of today, just kept on playing in my mind. And what this individual said to me was, all the things that she's going through, very toxic environment. She said that her biggest fear, what actually drove her to book a private session, go the extra mile to come and see me, was because she said, I can see the parts of this toxic person coming out through me, and that frightens me. She said that to me and she was in tears. She said, as much as it's painful, as much as I hate what I'm experiencing from this other person, but there are moments where I see parts of this person coming out through me to reach out and squeeze other people. So it's very easy for you to say, oh, no, this person, I'll never be like that. I went through that. We usually become walking expressions of our traumatic experiences, either in exact replication or trying to go the direct opposite way. Maybe being unable to completely receive love and all of that. So you must be able to identify and heal from experiences that traumatized you while you were growing up or from your different relationships. Now, another way that could affect you as an individual is maybe by you just shutting everybody out. When you see a person who is an island, who is trying to operate as an island, usually there is trauma at the back of it, right? People who don't have other people in their corner, people who, cut everybody out. Oh no, I don't need friends. I'm fine by myself. I don't need people. They'll betray you, they'll hurt you. I'd rather be by myself, me and my children are my friends. Your child is not your friend. That is unhealthy. And if you're a parent who is saying that they're listening to me, then you need to start working on your healing. You're traumatized. All right? It is not healthy for you to keep your children as your friends. You're going to traumatize them as well. Because a parent should not be a friend to their child, at least not in the early stages of life. All right? So, one of the things that you want to do is to identify and heal any trauma that you might be carrying. If you've had bad experiences, maybe with friendships, you had betrayals, also ask yourself, right? Is it just the person, or is there something lacking in my skill, in my ability to, break off relationships? Most of us hesitate to cut off relationships. That's why I said this is a skill that you want to start teaching your children quite early, so they actually practice it and become skillful at identifying red flags, at saying, no, we are not friends anymore. Oh, sorry, I can't be friends with you. Or just cut off, right? And say, this person cannot be my friend. So you want to make your children feel loved and secure. All right, communicate with them early and often about friendships. This is something that has to be talked about. Don't just wait until when your child brings home a friend that you don't approve of for you to start saying, who is that boy? Who are his parents? What do they do? I don't want to see that boy here. That family is a bad family. So don't just wait until when your child brings home a friend that completely goes against or contradicts every single thing that you believe hold dear as a family, or as a value, sorry, right? You want to communicate early and often, by letting your kids know, oh, right now, mom and dad, or mom and her friend were having a disagreement, or, this is what we are doing. Let your children be able to interpret how you are navigating relationships. Let them be able to pick the lessons from what you are doing in your own relationships. So communicate early and often about relationships. Now, you also want to encourage your children. Experiences, they just, they start preaching to their kids about how, oh, you don't need friends. What are friends for? You have your family. You don't need friends. Friends will betray you. Friends will hurt you and things like that. That's you projecting your trauma on your own child, and that's toxic, right? Because that does not help your child develop people skills, and people skills are as important as any other intelligence out there. Because your child can be the smartest person in the room, but because they lack people skills, they will not be able to go far. I often think of Joseph in the prison. Now most of us have been through bitter life experiences. When you look at someone who is trying to live like an island, maybe, usually, like I said earlier, there's usually trauma at the back of that, where the person has been betrayed severally, has been hurt by different people. So their resolve is, oh, I'm going to cut everybody off. I'll be by myself. I'll just be by myself. I'm not going to keep friends or anything like that. Just my kids will be my friends, or my family will be my friends, and that's it. When I look at Joseph in the Bible, right? When Joseph was thrown into prison, that could have been a valid reason for him to just say, in this place, I'm just going to keep to myself. I'm not going to talk to people. I'm just going to be. He could have just been bitter, right? Cut off everybody, be by himself. But when you read the scriptures, you see that Joseph, even in those dire circumstances, was still a people person. Right? He was still able to navigate, his prison cell, even with his dire circumstances, and to the point where The fact that he was remembered at some point is a good thing. Because think about it, if you were such a bad person while in prison, he would not have been put maybe above every other person, number one. Secondly, they will never have even remembered him because it's hard to remember someone who was so bitter and sour to you, even if they did something good to you. The fact that they were such a bad relationship person can easily make you want to forget them. Now, another thing you want to do is to express interest in your child's activities. Now, like I said earlier, you don't just want to wait until your child has finally built a relationship with someone that you don't approve of to finally say, cut off with this person. It's not a good person and all of that. But you want to stay involved, right? You want to stay involved and present as a parent. So you can guide your child. When your child first meets someone, you start walking them through it. You want to provide opportunities for them to develop their own relationships. Like I said earlier, some parents stand in the way completely because they project their trauma on their own children. The fact that you were hurt, now you get in the way of your own child developing their own relationships. Because you say, oh, you don't need people, you don't need friends who hurt you. No, right? You have to be the kind of parent that actually helps provide opportunities for your child to build relationships outside of your family. Now, let me ask you this question. To what extent have you gone to help your child nurture their relationship? Maybe a friendship with someone else, right? Maybe a friend at school. For example, most kids on holidays now, they're separated from their friends, right? There are some parents whom, they're not going to like try to help the child, keep that relationship alive. We have must understand that these relationships that your children have early on, they're going to have later in life. So as a parent, you want to take interest not just in who your child is befriending, but in the kind of friend that they are, so that you can be able to help them become better people or become better relating with other people. You want to teach your child that respect is mutual. And one of the ways that you can teach this is by helping your child learn respect even within the household. Now, in most households, I'm sure some of you have read my article I put out at some point about how I don't teach my kids to respect their elders. All right? Shocking caption. I don't teach my kids to respect their elders. I teach my kids to respect people. In our home, there's nothing like respect your other brother, respect. No. We say that was not respectful or that is a disrespectful thing to say. It doesn't matter who you're talking to. Respect is something that you want to teach children, that every single person you meet deserves some form of respect from you. Not about elder, because usually elders, but we don't teach them that even the juniors need some kind of respect. And that's usually because even us parents are usually disrespectful towards our children because they are smaller, they are less powerful than we are. So respect is mutual. Respect is mutual. It's one of the skills that your child needs to learn to help them become better at relating with other people. Now, let's talk a little bit deeply about friendship skills. I said at the beginning that you should not just pray for your child to have good friends, but you want to teach your child about being a good friend. And how do you do this? Right? As a parent, how can you? I think it is actually a worthy goal for you to pay more attention, because if your child learns to be a good friend, that can also help them know what to expect from their friend and be able to determine whether their friend is also a good friend. Most people grow into adulthood without really understanding how to pick up red flags, understanding how to identify a toxic person or a toxic friend until it is too late. But if your child can learn how to be a good friend, right, by that standard, they can be able to determine what to expect in return as well. And when those needs are not being met, when to say this doesn't serve me or this doesn't work. So let your child also be someone else's answered prayer, and not just you praying that your child should also have, should have better friends. All right. So you want to be purposeful about teaching your child who a good friend is and how to choose a good friend. So first, take interest in who your child's friends are in every season of their lives. Now I'm going to ask you a question. All right. Do you know who your child's friends are? If I could wake you up in the middle of the night, could you be able to list all the people your child keeps as friends? Most moms in particular will be able to do this. Right? Now, there's a movie I watched. I think I watched that movie sometime at the beginning of the year with my husband. And this movie was so interesting because it teaches us about how Sometimes in we actually learned this in part on DR track this morning. How in a parenting relationship between spouses, one spouse is usually the one that um, is like the gatekeeper of all the relevant information about their children. And the other spouse usually can be so clueless about who their children are. So in this particular movie, it is talking about a man who lost his wife and he has a daughter, and that daughter is a teenager. And according to this movie, when his wife died, this girl shut down. She was in so much depression. She shut down, cut off from her dad. And at some point, she got lost. She got kidnapped. And when she got kidnapped, and the father now had to start looking for clues to find this girl, he knew nothing about his daughter. He didn't even know her friends, didn't even know their names, didn't even know, details about school, her different schedules. There are things he thought she was doing, maybe classes that he thought she was stopped taking years ago. He was not even aware. And this just goes to show us that sometimes, in a co-parenting relationship, sometimes we shift responsibility completely to one person. That if that person is not available, there is a complete incapacitation of the other person to the point where it can put the children in harm's way. So it's important as a parent, whether you're the mom or the dad, to go the extra mile to get to know who your child is, to take interest in their life, especially the kinds of friends that they keep. All right? Find out who they are. Find out who their families are. Find out what do your parents do? What do their parents do? Get to meet them if possible. So because this will give you insight into the kind of person that your child has made friends with. All right? Because evil company corrupts good manners, and it's often said that the apple doesn't fall from the tree. So you want to know, what kind of family is this? What do they believe? Does it contradict what my child believes? Right? How will this relationship influence who my child is becoming? Now, if you want to talk about teach your child how to choose their friend, you must realize that it's not something that you do in one sitting. You can't just sit down and say, when you want to make a friend, do this, do that. No, that's not how you teach that, right? It's a journey. That's why it starts with you being involved, with you being aware of the kind of friends your child is keeping, where your child is picking their friends from, and the kind of influence that these people might be having on your child. That way you can be able to guide your child as they go along. So it always comes back to the quality of your relationship with your own child. Would your child be able to bring the information that you need to you so that you can use information to guide them? There are parents whose kids cannot come and say, Mom, today my friend and I were fighting. Mom, today my friend and I, we are no longer speaking to each other. There are parents who don't have that kind of access to their child's world, that their child can be able to give them that kind of information. Now, how can you help your child navigate those circumstances if you do not have access enough for them to bring you that kind of information? Because everything that you have to teach will depend on your ability to be a part and parcel of your child's journey. All right? Now, these are 6 things you want to teach your child about picking their friends. Number 1, values. That is the starting point. Everything must always rise and fall on your family's values. All right? That's why you don't just teach values as a set of rules. In this house, we don't do this and that. But you want to teach values. You want to create a value system that shapes your child's identity to the point where they start seeing themselves from the perspective of your values. I'm a person of integrity. I'm a person of excellence. I'm a person, I'm a kind person. I'm this and that. So your child is able to see themselves from the standpoint of your values. That way, they can easily discern when the person they are trying to build a relationship with is a complete opposite of who they are. That's the starting point. All right. I'm going to share the story at this point of my son when he was that was last year. That was class 5. Yeah, last year, class 5. Right. One day he came out from school to say, "Oh, Mom, this person is no longer going to be my friend." He had a friend. I said, "Really? That's quick. Why? What happened?" He said, "I've been talking to him about this particular thing he does. He's not been listening. I've given him several chances to change. He doesn't want to change. And because he doesn't want to change, I can't be friends with him anymore." Now, that kind of conversation is a product of a child who has had guidance, right, on what to look out for, on how to handle different circumstances, on what should be a deal breaker when it comes to relationship with other people, right? Who can be your friend versus who cannot be your friend and why? I always ask my kids and say, I ask them, who is your friend? Do you have a friend already in school? Yes, mom. What's their name? So and so and so. Okay. Why are they your friend? And what I expect from them is an assessment of the other person based on our family values. Say, oh mom, this person is so kind. When last time I was sick at school, this person prayed for me. They always share their snacks with me. So they're going to tell you based on the certain character traits that I've noticed in that person that aligns with who we are. If you can help your child be able to see other people from this particular lens, it actually helps them as they grow up to be able to avoid picking the friends. The second thing is accountability. A great friend should be accountable. A great friend should not be the kind of friend who, you say, oh, that thing you did was not right. And the friend is like, leave me alone. You're not my mom. You're not my dad. Or a kind of friend who never wants to own up when they are wrong, doesn't never wants to admit that they are wrong, or never wants to apologize when they are wrong. Right? Yes, it's true that these are kids and they are learning, but a great friend should also be teachable. The next thing is loyalty. All right, you must teach loyalty, but not just for your child to expect it from others, for your child to be a loyal friend. Have conversations with your child that helps them be able to understand what loyalty means and what it could look like for them to be a loyal friend and what a loyal friend should look like towards them. And loyalty has to do with showing up, has to do with being supportive, it's not about being a partner in crime, right? Though of course that's something that most people can relate to. When you're growing up, you want your friend to be the one that will not let you down. But at the same time, if your child starts from number one, which is values, by the time they get to loyalty, that will not even be a concern. It will not be a worry, because loyalty is so important. When we look at how kids today are literally losing their lives because of disloyal friends who betray them, right? Friends who let them down at moments when it's an issue of life and death. It's really heartbreaking. So you want to teach your child that if somebody consistently lets you down, that is a message that they are not loyal and you have to believe them. Now, there's this quote that says, if you don't like where you are, move. You are not a tree. Teach your child that friends are not how do I put it? A friend is not like a tree, right? You can actually pick and choose your friends, but you cannot pick and choose your siblings. You cannot pick and choose your friends. You can pick and choose your friends, but you cannot pick and choose your siblings. So it means when a friendship does not align with who you are, move. And that's exactly why I rejoiced when my son told me this person is no longer my friend. Because he gave his valid reason. I was like, okay, that makes sense. All right. It shows that the child is learning and he actually had to pick another friend and you got to be building with that particular friend. I actually know the guy to date. So teach your kids that you can choose your friends, which means that you have to decide when not to be a friend to someone. Because the reason why many kids get into trouble with friendships is because you feel like this is my friend, how can I leave them? No, you can't. All right, because friendships are not permanent. Yes, the goal is to build long-term friendships, but your child must be able to know when to walk away. So you have to teach your child to be able to know when to walk away. It can literally save their lives. All right. The next thing is support. A good friendship is supportive. So teach your child how to be supportive. Help your child to be a supportive friend. Their friend is sick. For example, my child will come and tell me, "Oh, mom, my friend is sick. My friend comes to." I say, "Really? All right. Can we call? Can we?" So I'm teaching my child what does support look like when it comes to friendship, right? So you have to teach your child what support looks like by helping them become a supportive friend. The next thing is you want to teach your child is that if they cannot, they don't necessarily need to be their own circle. Now, when your child gets to the teen level, they're going to start encountering peer pressure. And usually peer pressure is usually driven by wanting to belong. All right. Sometimes kids will do some terrible stuff just because they want to be accepted by a circle of friends. That's why you must be intentional about teaching your child about how to create their own circle when the available circles don't align with who they are. Because sometimes the only options that may be available might be people that don't align with who your child is. So you can teach your child that you don't always have to fit in. You can actually create your own circle based on your own standards. So teach your child to create a system where they are an influencer in that system. So the word influencer should not only be on social media. Your child can actually become a peer influencer, right? Where they refuse to bow to certain standards and they create their own circle with their own standards. Finally, I've talked about this already. Teach your child to walk in. Have conversation with your child where you discuss with them when to know, how to know when to walk away. All right. The Bible says, do not make friends with a hot tempered man, do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared. The Bible is literally telling you that you can actually, break off friends with someone who does not align. There are always red flags. The problem is just that we do not see them on time. People will always tell you who they are. The problem is most of the time we are not listening. All right. Now, we have three types of friends in life. Unfortunately, we cannot go through all of this because of time. We have three types of friends in life. Yeah, the network is really a problem. We have three types of friends in life. We have friends for a reason, friends for a season, and friends for a lifetime. Everyone, prays and hopes for friends for a lifetime, like David and Jonathan in the Bible, right? That's the kind of friendship model that every parent wants for their child. But you must also realize that there are actually different kinds of friends. There's a friend for a reason. There is a friend for a season. For example, my kids had friends maybe when they were in class 4 in a different school, very close friends. As soon as the school, they switch schools, the friendship just withered away. All right. But friends for a lifetime are friends that usually find a way to stick by you. They find a way to keep it going. Sometimes the friendships that wither is just because maybe opportunities, environment, circumstances actually put a breach between you two. Sometimes these people reconnect later in life, but sometimes that could have just been a friend for that moment. Now, the reason why it's important for you to be able to decipher between the three types of friends is because if you try to bring the friend for a reason into a different season, right, into a particular season, hold on to them for too long, it could actually become problematic. If you try to bring a friend for a season along for a lifetime, it could actually become a problem. All right. Now, you have to teach your children or accompany them on their journey to understand how to decipher different friends. Now, a friend for a reason must be a friend, someone that you are actually cordial with. Maybe you guys are working on a project together, but once the project is done, it's done and things like that. Friend for a season can be, a friend who is there at a particular period of your life. Once that period is over, you realize that you really have nothing more in common and you're done. But the friend for a lifetime is what the Bible describes as a friend that sticks closer than brothers. All right? Have I quoted that right? Yeah, a friend that sticks closer than brothers. All right. Now, essential tips for a good relationship, teaching your child how to have good relationships. First, you want to teach communication. Now, your child is going to come to you at different points when they have issues with their friends. Oh, mom, this person did this to me today. Oh, mom, this person did that to me today. Oh, daddy, this is what's happening. This person, I was fighting this person today. And sometimes your kids will not even tell you. That's as a parent, you must be able to know how to enter your child's world. If you're not learning parenting, I'm telling you that there's a lot that you're missing out on. Because accessing a child's world is a skill that every parent must have. It's a skill that you have to have. Because so as kids grow older, they will not volunteer certain information to you. You have to be skillful at fishing it out. I'm sure you had an experience where your child comes and they're gloomy. Going on. And it might be because they're having problems with their friends. I can't tell the number of times my kids have come home, they've had issues with their friends, and we had a conversation, we discussed the solution, and they were able to go back and say, Mom, I tried that thing and it worked. We're able to talk, we're able to fix it. It is such a rewarding experience when you're able to accompany your children on a journey that helps them, not just because friendships, quality friendships are so important, for a child's mental health, for a child's overall health, and a sense of well-being. The next thing is respect. What does respect look like? Again, this is something that you must first of all practice in your home, because that's where children primarily learn how to be respectful. All right, how to be respectful. It's so important that when a child learns how to communicate with respect, that respectful behavior also helps them nurture healthy relationships outside with other people. I didn't talk about quality time. Now, as a parent, one of the things that you must pay attention to, if you understand that your child needs friends, okay, is that you have to be able, when they are younger, they are going to need you to actually be like the catalyst for their relationship, where you can actually help them be able to, because friendship, every relationship has a currency, which is time. That's why some friendships are time to invest into it. So you have quality time, respect, the next, learning to see things or carry your friend's burden. Sometimes, particularly for the kids who are extroverts, I talked at the beginning about the fact that kids are not born with social skills, but we are born with certain natural to relationships. The extrovert has a natural tendency to gravitate towards people, but they are not very good at maintaining healthy relationships. The introvert, on the other hand, will not naturally move towards people, but is naturally more skillful at having better or at maintaining relationships. So they usually don't have many relationships, they usually have one, but that is usually deep. While the extrovert has many, but very few or none that are really deep. So you want to teach your children empathy, right? How to be noticing. A good friend is one that can look at you, have empathy. Empathy is being able to put yourself in someone else's shoe. Because when your child has empathy, they will be able to nurture a healthy relationship with other people. Because good friendships thrive on, taking care of each other. Your child is going to learn forgiveness or practice forgiveness based on how they have learned it from home. How do you forgive as a parent? How have you taught forgiveness between them and their siblings? They will take that practice, skill and be able to apply it in their relationship with their friends, and that is going to help them be able to nurture healthy relationships. So, now, for the sake of time, I had to rush through a couple of things. I hope that you have been able to pick up a thing or two that can help you be able to guide your child on how to nurture healthy relationship with their friends. Um, I think, sorry. Okay, so if there are any questions, feel free to ask before we shut down. We are just over an hour by 3 minutes. If there are any questions, I'm going to answer before I shut down. Any questions? Now, what do you do? What do you do as a parent to help your child be able, besides everything I've said you should teach, right? Another thing that you must consider is the environment from which your child picks their friends. Now, I said earlier in the lesson that it is a lost battle for you to try to pick your child's friends for them. And it is the superior thing to do is rather to control the environment. What you can actually control is the environment from which your child is picking their friends. That's where they spend most of their time. That's number two. So as a parent, you have full control of the environment where you spend time. Where your child is spending time is usually where they tend to pick their friends. That's why the school choice is not something you want to take lying down. It's a very, very important choice, because from that school choice, your child gets to pick friends that might actually end up being their friends for life. Of course, you cannot control every other child that attends the school, but just by being intentional about picking a school based on maybe their moral ethics, their different things, the environment, discipline, all of that, you can be at least be sure that certain the kind of person that comes there as well might also be an environment. Or for example, sending a child to a school where there are people there that share, set up, for example, a Christian school. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because many parents focus more on, I don't see you that boy anymore, but never ever ask themselves, where did my child meet this boy? Did my child meet this other child? Where are they picking these friends from? All right, it might be the neighborhood. There are certain neighborhoods where you don't want to. Now, how do I say this? All right, now let's talk about your neighborhood. Let's talk about the places where your child spends the most time. Number one is the neighborhood, right? Out of all the places where your child is spending, this is the place where your child spends the most time, the neighborhood. Number two would be the school. Number three would be places of worship. Number four would be maybe other houses, other people where you as a family spend time with. Those are the places where your child will meet the people that will have influence over them. Now, if you can control neighborhood is, your neighborhood should not just be about, oh, this is a nice house. Before you become purposeful parent, you might just pick a house based on the fact that I like that house. The house is nice. We can pay the rent. When you get knowledge, you realize that picking a house, there are more important things to consider than just the house is beautiful, I can afford the rent, or the house is, it's not too far from my workplace. The first thing you want to ask yourself is, what kind of influence will this neighborhood have on my children? Who are the right? There are certain places in town, for example, where I live, the city where I live. There are certain parts of the town that are notorious for having thugs, drug dealers, and all kinds of people. There are people who well to do that still live in those parts of the town. Maybe that's where you were fortunate to get your plot of land, and that's where you built. But you must understand that the neighborhood in which you're raising your child also determines the kind of influences that they're going to come across. So it has to be much more than just thinking about the rents or the fact that it's close to so and so place. You ask yourself, what kind of neighborhood is this? And how would this neighborhood influence the kind of children I want to raise? All right. So be more focused on the environment from which your child is picking their friends instead of spending all your time trying to pick their friends for them. Spend more time trying to control where they are spending time and how much time they're spending in those places, and also focus more on teaching them skills that will help them be able to pick, make, and keep great friends. So without any questions, I am going to shut down here. All right. I hope that you've been able to pick up something that can literally save your child tomorrow. All right. Teach your child that they can walk away. There is no code anywhere that says that friendships cannot be broken. Because sometimes children carry on with toxic relationships because they do not know whether to stop it or not. Teach your child. Do not hesitate walking away. Teach them the red flags. All right. A friend that puts you down, a friend that is not respectful, a friend that is disloyal, and even as an adult, some of us here could be learning these things for the first time. Right? A person who shows you who they are as a friend. They are disloyal, they are disrespectful, they are not supportive. What are you still doing there? You're not a tree. You can move. Teach your children that as well. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to also come to PPHP community. PPHP community, I look forward to seeing you maybe on our 1 year community. We also have the sex education class that starts on Sunday. Of course, DR Tribe is part of that class. PPHP, if you want more, please join in. And hopefully we see you too at the DR Tribe next edition that enrolls, that launches in December. Thank you so much for being here. Take care and see you at the next one. Bye.